Hey everyone, welcome to I think a really, I'm a little biased here, sorry. My name is Jennifer Anastasoff. I run an organization called the Tech Talent Project, and I'm a little biased. I think this is the most important panel here at the conference.
Can't agree more. Thank you very much.
And I'm pretty sure that many of you agree with me. When we talk about AI, when we talk about cybersecurity, when we talk about making sure families get access to food, when we talk about immigration, when we talk about climate change, you see where I'm going with this, none of that happens without strong technology, strong data, strong people to make it all work. And so the folks who we have the pleasure of being with today and who I'm so excited to speak with on this panel all have a really, I think, a deep insight and are going to help us think a little bit more about what that means today for governments around the world. As we talked about, we're not going to do intros. You can look up folks online. Just trust me, they're great.
Trust her.
Trust me. No, but do look them up online. I think we just want to save this 50 minutes for you, and we want to make sure there's time for questions. But what I will ask of this group is, just to get us right in and get us started, I think what we want to hear is a bit of a story, right? Every single one of you, you're talented, you're thoughtful, you could be doing many other things. Why are you focused on people and technology? What's a moment that got you thinking, this is really important? We're going to start with you.
Well, thank you so much for the intro. Yes, check us out on LinkedIn for sure. I think the earliest days of my life, it's what kind of prompted this. When my parents first moved to the United States, they were operating food stands in the streets of Chinatown in New York. And I remember my dad would keep arranging oranges every few minutes. And when I asked him why, he would tell me that we needed to sell a box of oranges a day just to eat. And then 3 boxes of oranges a day for the month just to make rent. But orange by orange, box by box, they sent me to college. So that's when I knew that like small things can lead to bigger things. Monumental changes often have modest beginnings. And when I graduated with a computer science degree, I realized that people like my parents are often forgotten. So that's why I'm doing this work. I'm at the White House now, and I get to be that, hopefully that one person, that modest change that can help a lot more people.
Thank you, Seeyew.
I really wish I wasn't following you.
That's right.
I think it's a combination of experiences for me, having been inside of government as a senior executive and trying to drive change and working with this amazingly talented group of people, but they were struggling to implement the change and stay up with the change, and as much as they wanted to be a part of it. And then now in my role as an advisor to government, we're involved with so many big programs and so many ambitious projects, and every single time we run into an issue, it's people. It's people, it's governance, it's people being brave enough to make decisions, it's people feeling confident that they have the right information to make the decisions, and it's leadership, right? And so it doesn't matter which way you come at it, it is the most important thing, and the technology is very challenging, but it is not the most challenging thing. And we need to invest in our people. And it's really a personal mission at this point, because I think that's what's going to take us to this place.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. I want to pause, Thomas, before you go, because I want you all to know that you are part of this conversation. You're not just here. You don't just get to sit. All right? I want you to be thinking as you hear them about questions. We're going to stop at 2:30, and we will be taking questions from the audience. Not comments, yeah? Questions. Even though you are deep experts, you have like a little sentence. We can take that. But just be ready and know that that's going to be coming back to you. Please, Thomas.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Thomas. I work for the UK government. I joined the UK government about 5 years ago, and when I first joined, I sat down with my boss, and he said, the first thing you need to do is go and see digital and data in the front line. So I live in the north of England. I went to a place called Barnsley. So imagine a pretty impoverished mining community. And I went to what we call a job centre, which is essentially the place where you dish out, you make available benefits to claimants, sometimes like the most marginal people in our communities. And Not a pretty building, very ugly. You wouldn't think that amazing things happen in that building. I went and sat with one of our work coaches, who's the person responsible for administering benefits and making sure claimants can get their benefits. And I went there because we just at that stage deployed a new system, which took the old system, which was where you used to tab across a green screen terminal, and we'd implemented a new system with a GUI interface for the very first time called Universal Credit. And I was expecting lots of feedback about how the system didn't work. I was expecting pushback and challenge. And actually, this particular work coach called Jenny that I sat with explained in great detail how the system helped her to administer benefits and help more people get access to the support that they genuinely needed to survive in their communities. She spoke really articulately, as you might expect a user research to, about what worked, what didn't, how things will be made better. And the reason I'm telling you this is because, for me, the most important people we've got are the people we've already got. And often we think about digital and data skills in the context of our digital makers, the DevOps, the cyber experts, the software engineers. But I believe everybody has the capacity, when equipped and given confidence, to play a really significant role in helping us use digital to make services much more accessible to citizens.
Thank you, Thomas. Brenda?
Yeah, for me, it's all about people. It's always been all about people. I'm a technologist, I'm a computer scientist, but I have witnessed over and over again where the least likely in the minds of leaders create the best possible solution because it's out of their humanity. It's out of the empathy for the situation. There is a situation where we all know about policing, and sometimes the encounters that happen with policemen, with Black and brown people. And generally, many times, those folks get public defenders, they get people who are over-indexed in having to deal with reams and reams of situational data. And so it happened that just recently there were some kids who came up with a solution. They automated transcripting that data, going through that video to help this overworked population actually be able to serve those people who are most impacted by these particular systems. And so it was an East Indian woman and an American Black man. And it really spoke to me that the technical skills are important. We know how to flip bits, we know how to do really cute things, but when solutions really work, it comes out of the empathy that gets inserted into that environment from a broad breadth of understanding that's just not technical. Education really is about people and their needs and the empathy that it takes to create solutions. So I've always been inspired to make sure that the people are first in the conversation and that they bring that empathy to the table, which is really, to me, the answer to true diversity.
Thank you, Brenda.
Great. Before government, I spent several years in management consulting, and I used to spend a lot of time working for large retailers, which meant I spent a lot of time sitting in stores. We would look at data, we would create some hypotheses, and then we'd go sit in stores to both observe customers and talk to employees in those stores to understand what the data was telling us, why it was saying a certain thing. And I remember sitting in this store and talking to a store employee, and we were looking at one of their it's like a little handheld thing that tells them how much inventory is in a store and like where to find it in the store. And we were looking at this empty shelf, and the employee was like, yeah, we're supposed to have 10 of these, and it's very clear from looking at the shelf that we are out of stock on this product. Now, there are a lot of reasons why that might be happening, but in talking to the employee, they knew exactly the problem. Their challenge was that they couldn't get their idea back up to corporate. And they were asking me, how do I know what the issue is here, and I know what our customers want, but I don't know how to get this great idea back up the chain. Can you help me? And I think in that moment, it was a really great example to me, both of the need to tap into those everyday employees, because often they are both the closest to the problem and therefore know exactly what the solution is. And I think now in my role in government, we don't want to be out of stock on government services.
And so the need for us to have the right employees and the right infrastructure and cross-functional conversations to get those great ideas to the top is something that I learned in this very small store in a very rural part of the country early on in my career.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, close us out, Chandler.
So Chandler Morris, I spent the better part of my career prior to my current role on Capitol Hill, and spent the better part of that, about 10 years, as the lead negotiator on immigration. And so for us in my part of the world, in that part of the issue, the immigrants that I talked to were all economic migrants. And it was really clear, and often early in their careers, and it just always sort of floored me how much difference a little bit of good information could have, how much benefit it could have. Career advice in the US at the moment is pretty anecdotal still. Like, oh, my Uncle Henry tells me that nursing's gonna be big. You know, like great, that's maybe true for that time, but I've been drawn to technology as a way to provide better information to open up opportunity.
Thank you, Chandler. And I'm really curious, just to get a sense of this audience here, how many of you already feel like you're focused on people? Just a quick show of hands. You're already focused on people in your day-to-day work. Okay. How many of you focus on programs? Like your main focus every day is on some sort of programmatic work? Okay. How many of you are focused, I'm curious on this one, on procurement? You help buy things or you sell things? All right, thank you. So we have a sense. There's a lot of folks who understand people in here or who are working on a day-to-day basis with people already. I'm going to jump back to you, Seeyew, and ask you this question. So we're thinking about, as we think about technology, cybersecurity has seemed to be an issue. So if we think about this panel, almost everyone said, you know what's really important? Focusing on the people that are inside. One of the things that we focus on inside in the federal government of the US here has been cybersecurity, because it's been something I think we all think about. It's just us here.
Yep.
What's keeping you up at night?
Thank you for that. Yeah, even though this is recorded, I get it. But what keeps me up at night, I kind of wish I need to sleep, right?
Fair.
But what I would say is it's also the reason why it keeps me waking up in the morning, right? And that's because what I want to tell other people, what I want people to know about cybersecurity and workforce is that the world now is built on a digital foundation. Doesn't matter, it's water, electricity, transportation. When you go to your hotel room, when you unlock the door lock, is that a digital lock or a physical lock? It's probably both. So because of that, we need cybersecurity in all sorts of different sectors today: manufacturing, healthcare, transportation, and whatnot. That's what makes a cyber career super interesting. It is a career with a purpose, it's good paying, and it allows people to take care of their family, protect their community, and serve their nation. The thing about cyber career that keeps me up at night is that people do not know that a job in cybersecurity is no longer about the guy in a hoodie drinking Mountain Dew in the basement wearing a hoodie anymore, The people in procurement, we need people who understand cyber procurement, policy, management, programs. There are cyber jobs everywhere now, right? Which is why what keeps me up, don't keep me up at night and also wakes me up in the morning is really to make sure that our workforce reflect the people that we're serving, right? So make sure that we have representation from rural areas, LGBTQ, underrepresented, underserved communities, all sorts of different folks that we have not traditionally paid attention to. Once we get them interested, I want them to have access to the training and the skills to be able to do those jobs. If you are a mid-career person trying to change your job and career, how do we help you out with that? If you're a K-12 student right now trying to figure out what your career path should be, if you talk to your parents today about a career in cyber, they have no idea what you're talking about. They will probably steer you to attorney or engineering. No offense, right? But I'm just saying, it's not a thing that we talk about. So how do we make sure that at every path of someone's career, if someone doesn't want to do a technical degree, do they have a role in cyber? Yes. How do we make sure they get a job without a 4-year college degree or a 2-year college degree? So that's access, that's number 2. And number 3 is it requires public and private partnership, right? We need to make sure that we have this ecosystem approach that we can go around the country to make sure that every community knows what they need and make sure they have the resources to serve their own people, right? When we talk about technology jobs, I always think about DC, San Francisco, where I used to live, New York, Austin, Texas. I want to have a lot more of those cities or areas with access to those jobs. that's what keeps me up in the morning. Well, I guess keeps me up at night and also wake me up in the morning.
Awesome. We all hope you get more sleep.
I have 3 kids, so it's probably not.
It's not in the cards. I'm gonna pull an audible here on that, just based on what you were saying, and say, Brenda, can you talk to us a little bit about you were talking about how cybersecurity, and I would just posit to say technology, like anyone who's working in technology in government, how our work and how our workforce needs to reflect the communities that are served.
Right.
And talk to us a little bit about what you're thinking about that and the work that you do.
Yeah, I mean, back to what I said before, the empathy that comes from experience and background and different experiences needs to be at the table where tech is created. It's a very powerful place. And some of that experience, the ability to have people there comes from even knowing that there is an opportunity. And so some of the work that we've gotten to do together is bringing together the large group of people who are in many ways affected by their universities in the way that, you know, grandpa or uncle have brought to bear what they should do. They just don't know at university of the amazing opportunities and the impact that they can have in government. And so we've been trying to change that. We've been trying to help them understand, help the people coming out understand, and also help folks who are in maybe their second, third, fourth career understand the opportunities of taking the experiences that they have, whether it's in retail, whether it's in marketing, sales, whatever it is, and seeing how they could apply that to solutions that work inside of government. So what we've been trying to do is bring more opportunity together to work with government, to work with our nonprofit, to work with all of the other sectors to make sure that people are informed that they actually have a role to play, because they do. And get out of that traditional thinking of who can and who can't, and just the nerd. I'm the nerd, okay, traditionally trained, but one of the things that we've always seen is that the more people have the humanities or the understanding of that, it helps them to apply that to the work that they would bring to the government. And we've done a lot of partnership together. And the experiment is, and you hear all day long, well, they don't want to come because, you know, for various reasons. And there are some valid ones there. But what we've seen is when they know, they come. We have a conference that's 30,000 people broad with women from across the country. And we started with one little breakout session at one of the conferences. And now we've got whole subgroups, Sisters in Gov, et cetera, and people have been transferring into government from all different areas because they know of the opportunity. That's what we've got to do a better job of. We've got to sell the government. We've got to sell the opportunities that are available for people to have impact.
100%. I'm about to ask Kirsten a question, but before I do, I want to let you all know that we're about to go to you. So think carefully.
It's coming.
All right, it's coming. So Kirsten, I mean, what's really interesting, I think, about what Brenda was saying here is, you mentioned Sisters in Government. You're so passionate about ensuring that folks who are in government understand technology and are really supported. Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well?
Sure, absolutely. I kind of call it shopping in your own closet, right? And other speakers have talked about this over the day. We have so much talent. Part of it is we don't even know the talent that we have. So most governments don't even have a really great searchable view of the capabilities. You might have got hired in to be a project manager, but maybe you were a veteran at one point. Maybe you've got great, you know, hunting skills. Maybe you should go into cyber. Like we don't have that ability. So, you know, working with governments to really think about, first of all, get a view of their own population, because probably there's an awful lot there that you can work on without automatically going outside. And then I think it's training and development that is curated around the people, and there's a couple of different pieces to this. There's at a leadership level, our leaders, the skills that got them there, the economics and policy skills are not necessarily the skills that they're going to need to lead digital states. And so we need to really help those leaders hone their change management skills, their communication skills, their digital savvy skills, their different governance models, all of those things. So there's a whole leadership cadre that every single leader in government needs to have. It doesn't matter whether you're in the CIO's office or whether you're in Department of Agriculture, you need those skills. And then there's all the people that are going to be working at various aspects around programs and projects. And when we bring people into government and as we're training them, we have to think about how do we make sure everyone's got good basic analytical skills because we're using information differently. How do we teach people to work in a more agile way? Like all of these, how do we create more curious people? We don't just need data scientists and software engineers. We need ethicists. We need linguists. We need philosophers. We need people that can ask different kinds of questions. And so you need a broad program. The UK has done this, some of the best in the world. India has also done it. 16 million public servants are part of a digital literacy program. 16 million. It's fantastic, right? But you think it through and then you provide different paths. It's not one size fits all, everybody gets the same training. You really need to curate it and you need to provide ways that people that are curious, and you create this lifelong learning appetite, they can move, different ways. So that's just a little bit of it.
All right, so we're going to turn it back to you all, because this sounds easy, right? Like we just need to do it better.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what questions do you have, and what's on your mind? We have a couple of mics. Yes, I see. USDS. Hi, right over here. And then right here. Please just say your name quickly and.
Hi, my name is Maddie Reynolds. I'm with the United States Digital Service. My question would be, what are some key strategies that you believe are effective in attracting and retaining top technical talent? And I'll just give a little backstory. I actually came from private sector, right? So I had a great recruiter that I worked with, and I self-proclaimed myself as a great technical recruiter, right? But I notice across the rooms as I sit within more forums like this, there is a gap within the federal government of attracting, retaining, and hiring top technical talent. And then super quick, we all have LinkedIn. One recommendation I would say, everyone in the room, utilize your LinkedIn in telling the story of how you want top talent to come to the federal government. But I wanted to hear from you guys on what your thoughts were.
Thank you. All right, we have one over here, Catherine.
Yeah, so I'm happy to respond to this. So I know we didn't do introductions, but I'm at the Office of Personnel Management, so we've people basically in the title of our agency. And we have been doing a number of things, both policy and product-wise, to try to address this exact point. So there have been a number of efforts that I think actually we've been working with Seeyew over at the White House on in terms of getting tech into government. One of the other innovations, though, that we try to take every opportunity to let people know about is something a little wonky. It's called pooled hiring, which basically means that agencies can work together to bring people in. So instead of every individual agency going out with their own job announcement, is working together to basically create scale across government so people can use the same pool of candidates, not just for technologists, but for different kinds of jobs across government. The other thing that we have also released is something called a Workforce of the Future playbook that has a number of different strategies that agencies can take. Again, this isn't exclusive to technologists, but as I think many of us have said, you need technology and technology enabling people into government. And this Workforce of the Future playbook has a number of different ways agencies can get talent in and retain and upskill. So it's available on our website, but these are just a few examples of things that we've been trying to do to make sure we get the right talent into the US government.
Thank you. We were having a fine little conversation over here, which we should.
Great, okay.
Well, we're just trying to figure out who answered.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I agree with all of that. And I think a couple of other specific things. You need to go to where the talent is. So you need to get out there, all of you. Everybody has a network. Your leaders need to be building relationships with the top schools, with the top companies. You need to go out there and sell the fact that there's no better place on earth to have a purposeful career, right? So you've got to get out there. They're not going to come to you. They don't know how to find you. You got to go to them, would be the first thing. And you've got a brand issue, but we had branding discussions earlier today. Yes. And then you need specialized recruiters. The general rank and file recruiting capability is not going to find you these folks that are sitting in highly coveted positions. So you need a specialized ninja recruiting team.
I'm going to pause on that because I'm going to be honest, everybody wants to answer that question, including me. So we're going to come back to it, I promise, at the end, but we want to make sure other folks have an opportunity. Sir, where was it? I had you right here. And then there was someone in the back. So we'll do you and then the person in the back.
Okay. Hi, I'm Stan Smith from the U.S. Department of Justice. Very similar question to what was just asked. How do you sell working in the government? Because we've worked with trying to hire folks before, and sometimes it's a struggle because the pay isn't as high. We have interesting telework policies, and I think in fact, we've worked with an interesting group called CyberCore as a way to attract some talent, and it was kind of weird because we felt like, hey, you're listed, we can hire you. Then we felt like we had to sell our organization or sell like the work, and so I'm curious how the panel sells government work just generally.
I'm going to totally take moderator's prerogative on this one real quick, and then I'm going to pass it. Right now, as we're speaking, there's a virtual event going on. It's called Tech2Gov. 1,500 mid-level to senior-level technologists in the United States, but in the United States have signed up because they want to see what government's like, and they want to join government. But what they need are people like you who will explain to them why the work is interesting and important. People who will not start with, oh, you don't have a federal resume? I can't talk to you, right? That's not a good way to start a date, right? That's a bad way to start a date. So it is actually quite critical that everyone involved in the process can tell the story and connect beginning to end. This is what we need you to do, and this is what's going to happen as a result of it. So we're going to take this as not one of the two answers. Seeyew and then Thomas.
Okay, so I think we have a marketing problem for sure, right? I think one of the things that I'm saying, what I was thinking a lot, the first question and your question now is, how do we make like government jobs sexy or cool? Like it or not, for a long time, media hasn't portrayed the work to be something that's exciting, right? So I think that's sort of like the one of the things that kind of keeps coming back is, I know there's a branding thing, but there's also the culturally, how do we talk about meaningful career purpose, impact, and whatnot. We kind of lost some of that. In the 60s, everyone wanted to be a rocket scientist serving the government, right? But what is that narrative now? I honestly do not know. And a lot of times it's probably easier to actually reach out to the people they want to attract and talk to them, sort of see what resonates with them. And a lot of times with Tech2Gov, like the branding itself of Tech2Gov, it's a good example, right? OPM and ONCD work a lot on Tech2Gov, is to sort of say like getting technology people into government. So we market it that way. We go to that channel. So, and for CyberCore, I'm trying to get them to have more people, right? To make sure that one of the things that we don't constantly talk about is what are some of the exciting jobs in Department of Justice, for example. We don't think about that, right? And the last thing I would say is this, I just saw Travis coming in. I came into the federal government as a fellow, right? I wasn't exploring federal job until I saw a fellowship that really attracted me. And I did Tech Congress Fellowship to actually help senators write legislation, right? That sparked something in me that I want to continue with federal service, which means we need to broaden our pathways. There should be many, many ways to get into the federal government, not just through CyberCore, could be like apprenticeship programs, could be internship program. USDS is another fellowship program that we really like. Digital core. There are many, many ways. I know that Department of Agriculture is starting a new digital core, right? Think about agriculture and technology, meeting people where we're at.
Awesome. Yeah. Thomas, now I'm going to preface this real quick with, you have stated this, and I just love it, so I just have to state it for folks who are here, but that CEOs of agencies are no longer just policy gurus, and I have to read it to make sure, but they're head of a digital business. So within that frame, I'm curious what this means.
Can I have a go? Just answering
You can just answer all the questions.
the first question first. So three initial thoughts. Firstly, one of our objectives is to speak with one voice, speak as one government rather than many, many different departments and agencies. One of our strategies for doing that in the UK is to establish a single definition for what we mean by roles and skills, so we can talk with one voice. For us, it's called the Digital Data Capability Framework. You can find it on gov.uk, and that's a really important reference point because it means we can start to talk with one common voice. It also gives us the foundations of pay, which I'll come to in a second, but the second thought is thinking carefully about how we diversify our routes to market, how we make sure that we are leveraging recruit, train, deploy models, making sure that we have returners programs in place, apprenticeship programs, as well as looking to hire substantive talent that already have all the skills that you want. And then the third area is thinking very, very specifically about our EVP, making sure that we can articulate really clearly what is the purpose, which for many of our potential candidates is more compelling than the other opportunity. We can explain to them the benefits of working on scale transformation projects that they wouldn't get the opportunity to work elsewhere, and also working within an organization that has a value set, a clear set of principles. And then finally, the point about pay, there is a real requirement on any of us working in this space to make the case and make the case and make the case again around pay. We haven't fixed it in the UK. We have a business case going through at the moment. I think it's been to like 13 different DG and ministerial sign-off points already. We're nearly there, but going back to this year on year and making sure that we can evidence the case to have sufficient pay to at least attract in the people that we need.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to pass it to you, and you're not going to be excited about this, Chandler. So I would put out there one of the biggest challenges in the pay is an interesting one, right? And I think we could all say it would be great to get paid more. And I hear this often that pay is a blocker, and it can be. But when we look at the people who are trying to apply, I think about these 1,500 who are in a conversation right now about joining government. $5 says that if all of them wanted to join government, maybe 100 would make it sometime in the next year, right? And so there are 3 pieces to get people in. One is speed. 2 is candidate experience, right? And I can't even remember what 3 is, right? Because it's speed and candidate experience. Oh, I think it's making sure you have subject matter experts, right? And so I would ask ourselves, the moment you go to pay, as someone in government who doesn't, when you don't have full access to figure out how to raise pay right now, in the interim, before you change everything, ask yourself, are we doing everything we can right now to increase speed with quality, improve candidate experience, so that if those 1,500 wanted to join, we could actually hire them? Right? And I would just push that, because I don't want the money to be the thing that we go to say, well, we just can't, because that's not the case. You can do this. Sí se puede. Okay. So my question to you, Chandler, and I know you had an answer, but you worked in Congress for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. What can Congress do to fix that?
I think, yeah, that's right. That's right. And I know you're like, so what?
Yeah, please.
Out of curiosity. Look, I think I want to. The skills piece is huge, right? So I associate myself with the comments around. I don't know that pay is the real. Like, I have a 17-year-old son. He's not waking up every morning thinking how much money he can make. As a matter of fact, if he ever did once, I would be super excited, because he's more like, I gotta follow my heart. I'm like, where's your heart gonna make money? So I think we have a generation coming on that it's less about the money and more about the mission, which is a real opportunity. But we also have a generation coming on that knows that it takes 6 months to a year to get hired into federal government, and they don't want to wait that long, and also have no idea how to hook in. Like, what do they have of value that the government might need? What does the government need? And that conversation is kind of missing itself. And so right now, I think we're in a moment around skills. There's 16 state governments that have moved towards a skills-based approach to hiring. The federal government had an EO in 2020. You're shaking your head. You're like,
EO is an executive order for those who don't know.
Executive order in 2020 about skills-based hiring. The Biden administration has issued guidance. And now I think Congress is starting to think about what can happen. So the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, WIOA, which is the federal underpinning for most federal workforce programs, just passed the House in a strong bipartisan vote, and tacked into there was some some tweaks around labor market reporting. So right now, one of the things that we know coming out of COVID is labor data coming out of the federal government is not fit for service. It's 6 months to a year old. It's not particularly skills-based. And so sort of pushing the federal government into really giving some of that underlying data around skills can be super positive. And then we're starting to see members really start to lean into this in creative ways. So Workday just endorsed the Access Act, which would remove degree requirements, enable federal agencies looking at contracts to remove degree requirements from the contracting side. Again, it's a small incremental thing, but the minute we saw that bill, we were like, this is super creative. It's really using the buying power of the government to drive the market, and it will immediately open up the conversations that I think many of us have, which is, if I have to wait for someone with a 4-year college degree in cyber, where's their skill set? It's 3 years ago, and the issues are moving so quickly. So I think the government is not, I think Congress is trying, and I think there are a lot of us trying to urge in the right direction, and I think many of those messages are landing today.
Thank you. I'm sure, Catherine, you have something to say.
I think that both of the points, Jen, that you made are ones that keep a lot of folks at OPM thinking hard about.
Pause. OPM is the Office of Personnel Management.
Yes,
Continue.
thank you. So one of the products that OPM manages is USA Jobs, which may have just made me the least popular person in the room. But one of the things that we spend a lot of time trying to do is understanding, exactly to your point, what is the user experience? What is the candidate experience? How do we use that, back to our conversation on digital experience and technology, how do we use that to make sure that people's first experience with government is understandable, is comprehensible, that they understand how to navigate? As someone who also came in from the private sector, it is not always the most intuitive thing to understand all the different options within government. I think one of the messages that we try to say, though, is that if you can do a job in the private sector, you can also do it in government, and then some. Because basically every job that you can think of as in the private sector is one that also exists in government. So trying to allow people that mental model of what does that look like, and then using the tools that we have in our toolkit to make that an easier and more seamless experience for people coming in.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're pretty much at time. I want to highlight a few things that I think we should just to highlight them in this conversation, because the people in this room, I'm going to assume that you're leaving here to go make the world better with people. And what I have found is often that is not the most rewarding thing that you could be doing, but it is the most important thing that you could be doing. And what I've heard from this panel today are a few different things. Number one, we need to make sure that when we're hiring for or supporting folks in our governments that relate to technology, they need to represent the communities that are being served. I heard that. I heard for us that it's not just about bringing people in. It's really, some of the most critical things are about looking at the workforce you have and really supporting them and figuring out ways to bring them in as digital leaders. And I think, if you get the chance after, just mob Thomas and ask him about what they've done in the UK about this. It's very interesting. And I've also heard very distinctly that every single person here has gotten engaged in some way through either a deep passion, whether it be as personal as yours, Seeyew, which thank you very much. I think we're all going to go home and think about that, and what we can actually do for folks, or whether it be even thinking through years in Congress about what you're going to be able to do or what Congress should do. But I think the most important thing is that the work that we do is critical. So I just want to thank every one of you for coming up and spending your time prepping for this. And do come up and talk to us afterwards. I know we all wanted to answer so many more questions. So come up and talk to us for a sec. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.